Breaking Up, a podcast about breakups, love and pop culture. I'm Isabella Shields.
And I'm Adam Benmakhlouf.
Next week we'll be joined by our guest Josh Duncan to discuss Sex and the City, but this week we're answering Agony questions that you've emailed in and DM'd us. You can send us your questions at breakinguppodcast@gmail.com or via Instagram, where our handle is @breakinguppodcast. Adam, how are you?
I'm well. Yeah, just enjoying our little hot gossip pre-game chat that we usually have. I was enjoying just reflecting on the amazing episodes that I've not been in with Annie Shields and Ailish. It's just been, oh yeah, I had a lot of laughs at the sister-sister dynamic that was going on in that episode. Especially, yeah, you just make fun of each other for the way you say words. That was like peak sisterhood to me.
Well, she sounds like a little English woman now anyway, because she's been doing it too long. And I'm sure everyone will agree.
Yeah. But I thought it'd be great because, like, people that aren't Scottish that happen upon this podcast, I might understand a word of it, which is good, because I often worry about that when it's me talking.
Oh, do you know when it actually gets quite bad for us when we've got our little Scottish voices on? If we disagree with something, we're both like, or if I get really angry at someone, I get like increasingly Scottish, and so do you, and like, we just get into this little like rabbit hole that needs significant editing.
You just have to type it out and get one of those like computer voices to say it, and that can be seamlessly
Sliced.
put in all those kind of unintelligible sections. Splice that code.
But I feel like I'm pretty good this week, but also struggling with getting back to normal because I don't have an excuse. I posted about this on the Instagram. I don't have an excuse to act like a fucking alien in a play about humans anymore. Like every time I
saw
have
that one.
It's awful. I started talking to her about a book I was reading. Basically what happened, if you don't have Instagram, is that I was walking down the stairs and my flat's like closed, and I have quite a cute neighbour, and he was coming up the stairs and he was like, hiya, like really enthusiastically to me with like a big smile on his face, and then was like, how are you? But it turned out he was on his headphones in a call, but when he said how are you, I just answered like with absolute enthusiasm, and I was probably like, yeah, I'm great, and then like was talking about the book I was reading, and then he looked a bit like, oh no, like he kind of juddered a bit, and then just like continued on his call. It was terrible. It was terrible.
It was a piece of trash. He should have hung up suddenly, hidden his phone so you never knew what happened, and then continued the conversation. Clearly not an Oxbridge fella.
Not a gentleman.
What a tramp. For a lady like you.
I'll start taking photos of him on the Instagram so everyone knows to just like cry shame at him when they see him on the street.
Well, the next thing you have to do is just listen out until he's on the stairs. Run out and be like, how are you doing? Then put your phone to your ear and like, not you, tramp, and then walk on.
Yeah, I think that's the only sensible way forward at this stage. Just humiliate him back.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you would do in any viable high school comedy film, was just give them a taste of their own medicine.
But shall we move on to the Agony questions to try and help people live their best lives unfettered, unbothered by horrifically rude neighbours who interrupt their phone calls yabbling at them about books? But
I mean, if there's one thing we're always yabbling about to people's discontent, it's books. People hate books, and we won't accept it. I'm sitting near a book just now. 2 books, nay.
I'm sitting near 5 books.
And a MacBook.
If Apple would like to sponsor us at all, we both use MacBooks.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll continue to. And we'll act like they're literary pieces. Like, we'll act like it's literary material to work with a MacBook. But in any case, here are your Agony questions for the week. Adam, they're all sight unseen for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you in the zone? How do you tell your significant other that when they drink, they're really not as funny as they think they are, and even stray into a bit of the dick territory? without causing a breakup?
Oh, that's so difficult. Ugh, I, how do you even bring that up? I think you can really only do this one in a very clear way, without muddying the message. Because I think it would be very easy to go into kind of like jokey territory about it. I think you'd have to be like, right, just going to sit down. Could talk to you about something. You might not like it. It is disturbing to me that when you drink, the way you act is really heinous. No, not heinous. It's really
disturbing.
hard to be
heinous.
around.
These words are not conducive to like an easy.
It's the first draft. So yeah, what rein in the emotive language. It's a concern of mine, and I've noted it a few times that when you have drunk a certain amount, I think you're not your best self, and I find it quite hard sometimes to
manage it,
communicate with you, and get through to you.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
I just think it's such an uncomfortable one, like a truly uncomfortable one.
It's real. I mean, it feels very like outside of that person's control in some ways.
Yeah. But
like
also,
who
like,
you are when you've been drinking.
I'm not that sympathetic to people that are horrible when they're drunk either. Like, I don't have a lot of room for it. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you'd have to wait until they were drunk and they were out, and then like you're with a few people, and then when they say something that's dreadful, everyone can collectively be like, that was way too much. Like, you are being a bit of a dick. Maybe it has to be situational, because I feel like I would imagine you got drunk and someone was like, every time you get drunk, you're a bit of a dick. I hate it.
I think surely there's some like learned behaviour in there, because maybe if you've only ever got drunk in your youth around a certain group of friends and you all acted a certain way, and then suddenly you have, you know, a significant other and you're not in that context, but you still go to that like messy sort of gross place that was just like always the place where you go when you get drunk. I know, it's not outside that person's control. I think you can, it'll be hard to break that cycle, but I think you can.
Yeah, and you can also just be like, I'm wanting to drink less. It would mean a lot to me if you drank less too.
Yeah. I mean, that is a takeaway from it. It's just like, if you can't be a good person when you drink, you might not be the sort of person that should drink, because they might just not. They might just not know that. Like,
they probably don't.
That's level one, isn't it? That's been like, listen, when you drink, you do this horrible behaviour. Now you know this, and then if that person continues to drink, you're like, why do you keep doing this when I've already told you that every time you do this action, it leads to me being uncomfortable and not wanting to be around you.
Yeah, and you become like this version of yourself that makes me unhappy.
Yeah.
And like, but I think you couldn't say to someone like, you're not as funny as you think you are. That is feedback that would absolutely kill me at any junction.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm so funny that we have a podcast because we both think we're so funny. Like,
oh, yeah, it's true.
So I just think that's really hard to come back from. But also, like, if the way they're not being that funny and the way that they're being a dick is by being like racist or sexist or homophobic or just like a bully in any way, like if they become like bullyish, which is like, I guess, the kind of bit of a dick thing.
Yeah.
Then you could just be like, you act like a bully when you're drunk. It's really not nice to be around. I really don't like it.
Yeah.
But then you also have to be able to give examples. Like, that's one thing I would say. If you're pulling someone up for behaviour, you need to be able to give examples. You can't just sort of nebulously be like, do you know you're a prick? And like leave it to lie. You know?
Yeah. It's an extremely complicated one. Yeah, I don't really think about drinking a lot because it just isn't a big part of my life, really. So it kind of like, I think it does disturb me in a big way, like the idea of having to like sit down with someone, like talk to them about their persona while they're drinking, because it does feel really like, it just feels like very, like lots of risks that are within that, like if you can't, because I just feel like you can't meet someone in that moment and let them kind of, like, it's always going to be in retrospect, and when they're doing it, they're already going to be like kind of beyond the point of conversation. So it's a really difficult one to call, because if it was just about someone's bad behaviour or something that was really troublesome, then you can really easily be like, well, you just like call it out in the moment, and then you just like hopefully they just join you in that. But when, oh gosh, yeah, just try to get your head around it. Just anything involves like some kind of like substance misuse, it's just like gets really
murky.
Yeah, it gets murky.
But then without instigating a breakup, like if they're so sensitive to that feedback that it might trigger a breakup, then it seems like they're kind of not in a good place to be in a relationship. Like if the criticism that like they're drinking like too much and it's making you unhappy, and the way they act when they're drunk's really unpleasant, and they can't like hear that and then not break up with you. Yeah. And I think it's a bad sign. But
oh god, and it'd just be like, imagine just like, I feel really bad for the person, because it's just like any fun or leisurely moment often just like involves having a wee tipple for like most people. So if every time that's like tinged with this thing, like, oh, I hope you don't act like a horrible monster tonight. Like that's just like, it puts a damper on most things, like most enjoyable things in life, you know, like parties, weddings, birthdays, picnics, dinner, just ruined. Yeah,
it's not like, it's not a chill situation to be in. I think someone needs to know as well if they're being a fud. Like, I always think that you should be able to tell people when they're being a dick, and just be like, you're being like, and it, like, I think that's true of everyone in any situation. As long as you're in conversation, you should be able to be like, that's not all right. And if you feel like you can't do that with someone, then you're kind of on bad footing, and they shouldn't make you feel like you can't do that.
Yeah, I think most of the time the way I have looked at things recently, at least, is it's like you said in one of the previous podcast episodes that I wasn't in. This podcast is all about messing it up and kind of like bringing yourself back round again. That's the ethic of it, you know. And like, I think that's so true. And I think one of the big things is it's fine to do the wrong thing. It's just like the defensiveness and the refusal to hear someone out. That's when I'm a bit like, oh, you're just like a waste of space. Like that's when that happens, you know. Like, it's not usually someone's like one bad thing they did in a situation. It's like, you are cancelled from my life. It's just like, you know, if you just can't hear about it after it, and like, if you make me feel like I'm crazy and you're like, you know, gaslight me or whatever, and just I don't think that's pretty bad. Then that's like, that's when it's like, oh, I can't continue on this wonderful adventure we have shared together.
Because it's actually not that great now. It's gone weird. But
it's over.
It's over because it's weird. But I think you should be able to tell them that it's making you uncomfortable and it's making other people uncomfortable. And you just want it to stop because you just want to have a nice time. So maybe do like a 3-drink limit. Just be like, let's only have 3 drinks when we go out. I feel like we both get a bit out of control when we're drunk. And I think you said some things the other night that you didn't really mean and that were quite hurtful to people. So I think we should just like dial it back a bit and try and keep on top of things. And then if they're like, but I'm so funny when I'm drunk, you just be like, I don't think everyone's on the same page as you.
I think it'd be like, how would you put this kindly? You're funnier when you're not drunk.
You're funnier when you're like not being horrible, like as a general rule. But
and optimistically, the thing you're saying is like, en general, you are a very nice person. Hopefully that's what this is in this situation. And the reason why I'm pointing out is because like, this isn't the person that I really like when this happens. I just want to experience more of the you. Like, I mean, I think the reverse of the situation is the nightmare of like only like this person when they're drunk. And the other nice thing is that, you know, you're still at level 1 of this. Presumably you haven't brought up at all. Level 1's like the nice bit where there's still lots of things that could go well. Like you're saying, like it's like 3-drink rule. The next stage, if that all kind of falls through, then you kind of know where you stand with the person, which is like, oh, you've got all the information. You're not willing to like meet me on these conditions. This is when it kind of like feels, that's kind of the danger stage. I don't think you're at the danger stage yet, and it could be a lot worse. And as much as it's uncomfortable, you're kind of moving towards like a much better situation, potentially a much more like rosy, enjoyable life when like you don't have to, dread any sign of a wine bottle coming out. You can enjoy it again.
Everyone could just be fine. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So it's a two-step answer.
Yeah. You're not
Gentle.
in the danger zone.
Yeah.
All to win right now, to be honest. You know.
Yeah. You're in good hands. You're in safe hands.
Mm-hmm. Uncomfortable moment for a lifetime of pleasure. Potentially.
A lifetime
At least 6
of
months or so
pleasure.
fun.
Yeah, a lifetime of pleasure sounds so sordid. It sounds like vibrator merchandising.
Oh my God. Made from the most durable, eco-friendly materials.
Maybe that's the side hustle for this podcast, just sex toys. Look out for vibrating up sex toys.
Sounds like a combination of like a sex toy, like a drone.
Oh my God,
like,
I would love
that work.
And then you could be like, no, it's not a drone, it's actually a sex toy, every time anyone asks. And it could like get really good POV shots.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Manish! Patent pending.
Okay, we move on to question 2.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's been a while since my breakup and I feel like there's still drama around it and I don't know why. For example, I can't come to events if they come and vice versa. How do I make it clear that this isn't really fair or relevant?
What do you think?
I think it's like very high school behaviour, but it also depends. Yeah, it said it's been a while. It was going to be like if it's like 2 weeks since you broke up and there's just a bit of sensitivity about people being like, oof, like, is it? But I think you just always have to check if everyone's fine with it. Like if you just messaged, if I had an event and I'm like, 2 of my friends who recently broke up came, I just messaged them both being like, I've invited you both. It's like totally at your discretion whether or not you show up, and I get it either way, but like I'm very happy to have both of you here if it's like gonna be civil, which I think is like a nice way forward. But then so I think what is not cool is if people start excluding people based on a breakup and like picking, like I think it's just shitty. Like I think it just leaves people out, and there's nothing kind of weirder and grosser than like leaving people that you like out of situations and like making them feel like because they had a romantic relationship that went south, especially if they didn't do anything wrong, no one did anything wrong, that I don't know, like maybe they did do something wrong, especially if there's still drama around it, quote unquote. But I just think if it's been a while and like nothing bad happened, then everyone should just be trying to do their best to get along. There was like as an example of like a different way this went that I thought was like really crap, one of my friends was invited to a party and their ex was invited as well, and the party host messaged them both and said, would you be okay, like I've invited you both to the party, would you be okay coming knowing that this person's coming? And my friend was like, yeah, that's fine, we can just like try and get a bit of space from each other and it'll be nice to say hello. And then their ex was like, I can't promise I won't start a fight. And instead of, and I thought that was fucking horrific, but instead of being like, right, don't come then, which is what I would have said, because I'd have been like, it's nothing, this isn't a fucking WWE like fighting event. If you want to start a fight, then just don't come. Instead of doing that, my friend's friend was like, oh, just be careful because they're probably going to start a fight with you, just so you know. Which I thought was like beyond batshit.
Oh, yeah.
I think events like that are when you just need to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, you can't come if he's coming. Because you made a threat the last time this came up. Like, you made it really difficult. Like, you made it an impossible situation. But other than that, I think, like, everyone just kind of needs to play it by ear and, like, grow up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I completely agree. Like you say, I'm going to assume for these purposes that the questioner, you know, has had a fairly straightforward breakup and there isn't like kind of, you know, any gross exceptional circumstances within it. So going from that point, I think yeah, I think it just, I hate it. You know, I really hate it. I think it is, like you say, it's really immature.
Mm-hmm.
It just like, it's very high school, and I think it and it also doesn't do any favors for like the person who's like supposedly like the beneficiary of it. You know,
Yeah.
it just kind of like just babies them. It just kind of like mollycoddles them. It just like sustains a false narrative of their own victimhood, which,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's a big part of that person's personality. We don't know. And you don't want to encourage that, you know? Okay, edit flag.
No, 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 absolutely not. I think that's like a really, really, really good point, because I think often there is one person who's like, even if they're the one that like instigated the breakup or something, ends up being the one that's
Yeah.
like, everyone needs to look after me now because I've been through a breakup, when the other person might be perceived as like a bit stronger. And I think it does happen.
Yeah.
I think it happens to men more often, to be honest, that people don't look after them, especially if they're the ones that instigated the breakup, because there is already the perception that they won't really need looking after.
Yeah.
Because of like masculinity, I suppose, and like perceptions of it,
Yeah.
and like the fact that men are less willing and able to actually ask for help when they need it because of like various sort of indoctrinated feelings and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, completely.
But I just do think that it's a really, like, as if an adult friend, it's a stupid way to look at a breakup. And also, I was reading the question, like, you shouldn't baby anyone, like, especially after it's been a while, because I was rereading it and I was trying to work out what's the best, like, feedback to give. But if it had, like, not actually been that long and there was drama that hasn't been resolved, but it just says, I feel like there's drama around it and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's been, like, cheating. It doesn't seem like anyone's gotten, like, really badly hurt. It just seems like there's been a breakup that's, like, not... that might have, like, really hurt people, but not for any malevolence. Like, not through any malevolence, rather.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, I feel like this, like, snapback post-breakup can just, like, kind of prolong bad relationships, because it's just, like, this sense of, like, oh, I sense that this person, like, you know, will not deal with this well. I sense that they're going to, like, I sense, like, a lot of their friends are just going to, like, if that's a possibility, I just think it's just, it makes it really hard to get out of a bad relationship, because you're not just, you don't have, like, the kind of, like, logical fallout of it, because the logical fallout of leaving a relationship is you don't have that romantic attachment to someone. It's not that you, like, lose your friend circle, you know? And I think if that is a takeaway from it, like, it kind of, like, at its worst kind of logical outcome, it's like those situations where, like, you know, abusive partners keep like a relationship going by lording over, like, that person can't survive outside of it, or they're going to lose something that's really important to them, whether it's, like, financial, whether it's social. And I just think any kind of, like, sort of, I don't know, I think if a friend thinks they're, like, doing a favor for the kind of person that wants to, like, freeze out an ex, like, it's just like, it's not loyalty. It's just pretty rubbish, I think, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely like a cool down period, and yes, like, some space needs to be there, but, like, once you get to the point of, like, you know, like, when it's, like, you know, recent history, then it's time to just kind of treat it that way and not have it on the forefront all the time, and just kind of act as though everyone's fine with each other. And if they're not, then that needs to, like, come to the surface, not kind of be constantly, like,
dictating social engagements, I guess, or like, oh, what do you mean? Or, like, shoring up. It's
almost like an infinite postponement or something of, like, actually dealing with the issue, and probably just speaks to, like, you know, friends not want to do that work either with the person that they're. I just think it's just lots of enabling of quite, like, coddled behaviour. Yeah.
And it's making me think of, do you remember the bit in Friends where Ross and Rachel break up and they try and go on the skiing holiday with Rachel because she tries to, like, drag them along, and then they leave Ross behind, and then Ross and Rachel have this weird, like, standoff, and Chandler just starts, like, doing a really weird dance, and then Phoebe's like, "You're breaking Chandler!" In terms of, like, friends handling your breakup, I think that actually just makes it even more obvious that it's for you two to deal with. It's not for your friends to manage and like try and supervise or try and handle, because it actually does just end up like hurting them and offending, and not offending, and like putting on a stress on their friendships that they don't need. Like if I broke up with someone, I wouldn't want to be like, only talk to me now, and like I just I think it's really crazy. And I think often in these cases, the fact is that one of the people that was in the breakup, normally the people that would be perceived as less hurt by the breakup, like don't get that support because people don't think they're deserving of it somehow. But I think that's insane. And you don't know a relationship unless you're in it, as much as this podcast is about like giving advice. Like you don't know a relationship until you're in it. So even if you are freezing out one person, or like one person's getting excluded, like you're never going to know what's going on unless you actually engage with both sides, especially if they're your friends. So I just think if you're going to make it clear to people that that's not fair, then like I think I would just actually kind of just say that. Especially if you're still in contact, but like for some reason you're not getting invited to stuff, and like you are being left out in the cold despite your best efforts, and like because I know a lot of people this has kind of happened to, like even with kind of friendship breakups, or like they find out about something in the aftermath, or like they see something on social media and they're like, oh right, okay, I guess that wasn't for me, I guess I wasn't included, or like just being in situations where people are like I feel like you just can't intentionally exclude people. Especially if you care about them at all, like don't do that. So I think, what would you say for like confronting it? What would your advice be?
I mean, it's hard. I think in lots of different like levels, I do relate to this quandary. Is that a word you use here? And it's a really difficult one to negotiate because, you know, it involves like, a part of a breakup is sort of like a kind of justified abdication of responsibility for one another's feelings. We've talked about this loads. It's like you don't have to do the cleanup after a breakup. And it almost kind of brings that around of like, oh, listen, you're doing this thing and it's like causing me like some concern, or it's causing me some pain. And it feels like you're kind of like asking someone to like recognize your well-being who doesn't really have any responsibility for it anymore. But also like I think when someone's like, you know, semi-actively trying to create a situation where they do still feature like within your like I feel like if someone's like setting up a situation that does very clearly lead to the outcome that, you know, you could possibly be like hurt by it, and it feels like they're the person that's kind of like restarting that connection, or like it almost feels like, you know, in a weird way, that kind of like insistence on this like bubble of like distance from their ex is a way to kind of like keep up that connection, like you know, to kind of like to keep in a really like unhealthy kind of sublimated way of being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like make this like silent border around me that you can't cross like for all time, even though like it kind of flies in the face of like common sense ways that we both socialize. Like this way of like continually like reasserting like there was this connection and it's broken, and it made this distance instead of just being like, oh, we're gonna like bump into each other and like we'll have to chat. Like
because what I was thinking about as well was you just being like, it'd be great if people just like dropped dead and like were out of the earth and almost never existed. But like what we spoke about when we're talking about that is like, that's just not real life. Like that's just not, as much as it is like the most enviable version of a breakup sometimes, it's just not what things look like. And like especially if neither of you are moving city or town or village or like country, and you're both like you are going to see each other. You do have the same friend group. Like, it doesn't make sense to, like, I think the thing is with the friends, I think the problem is with the friends and the person who's, like, creating this dynamic. If the person speaks to the friend about it and says that, like, it's something they've noticed, it's something that they're not really happy with, and it is actually just making them feel, like, pretty rubbish at the next possible opportunity, especially if they can't get in contact with the ex, if they've got like a no contact rather like policy, then it's probably good to talk to the friends about it, because they probably haven't heard the excluded person's side, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They probably don't know what's going on, and they've only heard one version of events. So I think it's good to be like, I don't like this, it's making me feel really, really bad, and I kind of don't know what to do about it because no one's giving me a choice. And no one's talking to me. So I can't, it's really difficult to manage things when I have like zero information other than that I'm not allowed anywhere near something if my ex is there. Like, is there something that I should know? Like, is there something that's being said that like I should be coming like correcting? Because like the other thing that I think of is my friend who, like, obviously her ex-boyfriend told everyone she cheated on him, and that was really crazy. And then she couldn't talk to him to like turn the tables. But I think having all the information is good, basically. And like, if you can have all the information and put across all the information to as many people as possible, that's the main thing. And like, just try, and also just think about like whether or not you still want to be friends with these people if that's a situation they're putting you in.
I think it's just that thing of like, it's kind of all to play for, because it's not going to get worse, presumably, you know, unless it's like a really kind of manipulative situation. It's just like, it's for your own benefit. Just like trying to get, do your best to get in contact with like some grounded reality, because I think operating within like pockets of like silence and kind of like exclusion, there's nothing to kind of like grip onto within that. So like, am I imagining this? Like, so I think whether that's kind of chatting to this kind of social circle around your ex, or if you feel comfortable like chatting to your ex in any way, that seems like the best way to go, you know. And what comes of it, you know, if it is just like a kind of like, you might end up back to where you were and just kind of like have that kind of maybe like reassertion of like nothing's happening, it's kind of in your imagination, in which case I think we would follow Isabella's tried and tested rule of like, just have some examples, be like, oh well, then this happened, this happened, this happens, like how do I interpret these? And then like, is there some like mad excuse you have for all of them? And then just go from there. Just kind of like, I think that's the thing, don't feel scared to ask for what you need in that situation, you know, especially, and I think kind of asking for something from people who haven't necessarily shown like that they prioritize your well-being always feels a bit like, oh well, this is like, it puts me in a kind of dangerous situation, because I think, you know, it might just mean that I'm just dealing with more kind of smoke and mirrors. But again, find some certainty within yourself, and also you can kind of contact other people if you want. But I guess, like you say, like you might just not want to be friends with those people anymore. Like, they don't sound that fabulous. There's so many people in the world. I mean, there's a little bit less since coronavirus, but like, go for it. Find a friend. But and also like, if it is the situation that these are kind of your only friends, and these are the people that you rely on for a lot, and they're doing this, then it's even more important that you're like, I really don't like it. And if you can't understand that I really wouldn't like this, then like I sort of I can't relate to you on that level. Then like, I don't really understand why you can't relate to me. Like, I don't know why you'd think that this would ever be okay. And then, because like, that's the other thing, if you don't want to be friends with them anymore and you do kind of just want to drop off the map, it would probably be good to be like, I do feel a bit shit about the way you handled that, and it's made me feel weird and bad. And then if they're like, I had absolutely no idea, I'm really sorry, I was just really in my own head about the whole thing, and I was really trying to do like damage control or whatever, but I obviously handled it really badly, and I do want to like change that situation, that's one thing. But if they're like, well, sorry, but that's the only way we can do this going forward, then it's a way you can comfortably opt out of. And there are loads of people. There are people online, there are people on the streets, there are people in communities, you know. So, you know, you can find people, don't worry, they're always around. And if you had friends before, you can have friends again. For our third, maybe final question, maybe not. This is such a weird one, I think. This made me uneasy to read it. I'll have a sip of my men's tea.
Yeah. To make yourself more masculine to answer this question.
Yeah. Nice macho answer to this
Yeah,
question.
get that testosterone up. Right. My friends think that I made a mistake by breaking up with my boyfriend and it's really messing me up. What should I do?
Oh.
Yeah, did I not say that's a real, like,
It's so cringy. I feel like this is pretty much like the closest thing to have like a blanket principle in this podcast, but like it's always the right thing to do to break up.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like,
it's also like, what the fuck do they know?
oh my god. Like,
I totally understand why it would fuck you up. Like, I really understand why it would fuck you up to break up with someone and to be like, I just think you made a mistake.
Wow.
Because, like, like, what?
I cannot imagine. Usually when I get these kind of like, questions, I can imagine a few contextual factors and different situations where it would be balanced, that this could, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. But in this situation, all your friends need to do in that situation is support you in the decision you made.
Yeah.
There's no other real... there's no set of circumstances where it's appropriate to be like, you shouldn't have broken up with this person.
No, I think it's really a horrible thing to say. Like, I really think it's a horrible thing that someone said to you, never mind more than one person.
Yeah. I think that's it, because the measure of a breakup, like, and its validity is really simple. It's just, are you happy with your actions? And that means it was the right thing to have done. It's one of the few things where that's true. Like, your decision on whether your action was right or wrong kind of is the decider. You don't need a third party.
Yeah, your decision about your own relationship is the one that counts. Like, and also if you decide to break up with someone, and then if you're like, oh, fuck that off, I really shouldn't have done that, that's one thing. Yeah. If you're like, I overreacted, I really like made a mess of things because I was upset and it was a resolvable thing and I just like wasn't in the mood to resolve it. I just didn't want to. Yeah. But that's not a reflection of our whole relationship. And you're like, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't want to break up. Then I'd say like, it is fine to get back in touch with someone and be like, I made a mistake. Depending on the time, depending on the time frame. And I mean same night. It's like an argument-based breakup, and you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. That was dumb. That was a dumb thing to do.
I think the real kind of thing that like shakes me in this is the only possible circumstances where this could be like kind of like a bit of a clumsy way to be there for your friend is if you have observed that since a breakup, like they've been unhappy or like they've struggled with things or they don't seem like themselves. But in that case, it's never like undo the breakup. It's like, let's workshop this. How are we gonna like get you out this funk? Like, because you should never like rely on your other half or like that person that completes you. It should always go from the point of view of like, okay, if you're struggling with stuff just now, if that's even the situation that's on the table here, that's the only possible kind of way that I can be like, oh, maybe that's a very like badly expressed like a friend trying to fix like another friend's problem, but it's still not the solution at all.
No, and like I can't, even in that case, I can't imagine a situation where it would be. If you're struggling with things, if there are like things you need to do and you can't do them, then I think you just need to work on how to do them. Like, you don't need, your friends definitely shouldn't be like, well, that was his job, we re-employ him in this capacity. Like, that's not the one. And also, like, it's I just can't get over the fact that someone would be like, I just think you made a really big mistake breaking up with him. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? That would make me kick off massively. Unless I was like lamenting the breakup and I was like, I would never say that to someone unless they said, I've made a mistake breaking up with him. And then if I was like, to be honest, like, I think he did break up for the wrong reasons, and I do think you like both really love each other.
What if your friend has initiated the breakup, it's all went through, admin is complete, and you get the sense that that person like regrets doing it, but their reasons for not revisiting that relationship are to do with either like pride or insecurity, and maybe like they're not admitting that they've done the wrong thing, because like it's very difficult in life for a lot of people, myself included, to be like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Like if they're really just like being like very stubborn about it.
Yeah.
But even that, it still feels like that's the closest thing I can get to a situation where a friend, by saying that, would be like giving you the kind of like wake up call you need to be like, listen, like I know that you like are the sort of person that once you do something commits, but realistically everything else you're telling me and the way you're behaving, I sense that you maybe have revisited what your like decision was before, and you're just like, you're not giving yourself the space to do that, and you think it's not okay, and you're just being too proud, and you might be missing out on something. You know, like that's kind of the closest thing I can get to that. I don't think it's ever like you did the wrong thing.
No, and I would also like never ever tell someone they should get back with their boyfriend or they made a mistake by breaking up with them unless I knew that he wanted to get back with them.
Oh yeah.
I would never do that. I would never let someone like have a breakup and then be like, you should get back, you made a huge mistake breaking up with him, and then it turns out they don't want to get back together with him. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? What happens there? What's next?
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like that comes back to that thing of like, I think the breaking up is always the right thing to do, because even when, you know, you might give it a pause down the line, you just kind of have to go from there. You just, that's it. You're just like, okay, I did that thing, you know, gotta live with that decision. And it's, I think just any kind of like strong expression of like selfhood and what you want and kind of independence, I think it can often be rare. And particularly like within a kind of like heteronormative society where it's really difficult to kind of break out the couple form and not feel like you're losing a big aspect of yourself. So like it's not, I feel like it's never an easy thing to do.
No. And that's what makes it so much more insulting. That someone would be like, I know better for your relationship and you've really fucked up. That would drive me insane. I honestly can't tell you how angry that would make me, especially from this like hard Leo standpoint of being like, don't you tell me that like I fucked up. Like that is not your job. That's not your duty.
Completely.
And I'm really sorry that you're having to deal with friends who are trying to tell you how to live your life.
Yeah.
It seems like bullshit. Today's been a very like anti-friends episode.
Friends are bad. Friendship is wrong. Friendship inhibits your spiritual growth.
Just be an individual walking through life unaffected.
Yeah. Ephemeral, day-long encounters that mean a lot for the rest of your life. You never see them again. People you meet at festivals.
You're a flaneur.
Brief and intense relationships.
That's your life now.
Yeah.
No, but I think you can word with your friends and be like, do you get that this is really bad chat? Like, do you get this is like really, really bad for me? It's an insane thing to say. I'm having a hard enough time as it is. I don't need you telling me that I need to go back and like revisit things and like, I think, it's really hard to stand up for yourself a lot of the time, but I think just being like, I really don't like that you're doing that. It's really making me upset. Like, it's really making me upset. And there's nothing I can do to change that. I don't want to be with that person anymore. So
the other kind of version of events, again, like whenever I hear these questions, I always like immediately start like a little mini short story in my head. The other version of events would be that the friends are maxed out on providing emotional support with breakup fallout.
Oh.
And they're communicating this by being like, can you just get back with this person? Because like, I can't anymore. Like, I can't hear it. Like, that's kind of like the really stubborn version of this. Like when in Sex and the City, when Carrie doesn't stop talking about Big after the breakup, and they tell her to get a therapist, which I think is probably the better
solution.
Course of action. When you're just like, okay, you're talking about this a lot, and I am out of my depth because it's just like circling round and round, and like there's clearly some kind of like insecurity or emotional baggage that you can't get out of this by yourself, you know. And I think you need to unpick that with a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so funny. Actually,
I'm always like get a therapist.
Yeah, that's you're basically sponsored by therapy, but
well, yeah. I think because I got it you know, like for free. Like I always forget there's like the aspect of it where people can't afford it and maybe not necessarily like in a position where they would be provided it.
Yeah.
But that's why I advocate mental health support for everyone who wants it. That's again like that's qualification enough.
Truly. And I just think so I guess my standing on that is just like you need to tell your friends to shut up. And you just need to be able to like and they need to really hear that, and then you can play them this episode of the podcast and you can listen to me telling them to shut up, and maybe they'll listen to that, you know.
We could do a little kind of series, you know, 36 track situational dependent, you know, statements that you can play. When you just don't feel like you can say it. Listen, when you drink, you're terrible. You need to have a 3 drink maximum, not minimum. Unless it's a point where that person does like look back round in a great crack again, have a sort of 12 drink minimum.
But they have to have the first 11 drinks by themselves.
Yeah. The danger zone.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a good summary.
Yeah.
We've rounded up.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a few things that could be at play.
Yeah.
And really all you need from your friends is for them to support you in the decision you've made.
Yeah. And that's kind of it.
Unless you're being a bit stubborn and prideful and maybe missing out on something that could be good.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't think that's the case, that's enough to tell your friends to, you know, get behind you.
Yeah. Oh. I'd say fuck off. Adam would say get behind you. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Okay, what are your recommendations for this week? I've got a book recommendation.
Great. Well, my album recommendation, to be true to my listening patterns for the last few weeks, is Chromatica by Lady Gaga. And I say this from a point of confessionality. It's really good. It's particularly good for running. Mm-hmm. There's a really great song on there, Replay.
Replay? I've not listened to Replay. Yeah. I've only listened to Sour Candy, Rain on Me, obviously, as an Ariana Grande fan.
Yeah.
And what are the other ones? I love the
Sour Candy I don't really rate.
Yeah, I didn't rate it. I think because I was kind of over it quite quickly. And also Elton John sounds insane on the track that I listened to. Like, insane.
Yeah.
Like,
when I was young. Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of obviously not him, almost. Like, this is such really weird, like, auto-tune energy coming off it.
Yeah.
But a lot of good fun. A lot of good fun on that album.
Yeah. Stupid Love. Brilliant.
Oh, yeah, that's a great song.
So silly. She's just been on this thing she does for over 10 years now. She's really committed.
Yeah, I think she's back. She's back to the Bad Romance version of herself.
Yeah.
And I prefer
think so.
Yeah.
I just like silly choreographies, her weird like enunciation when she sings. She's got a soft spot for Lady Gaga now, I've realised. It's just because she's been around so long.
Yeah.
It's just nice, it's comforting. It's like watching Friends, you know, apart from when they're being, you know, transphobic and all the other problematic ways. But there's something comforting, you know?
Yeah.
And what's known? You know what Lady Gaga's going to do. You know what her tracks sound like. She writes her songs in 10 minutes. Like, you know there's no secret meaning. It's just like, that's a funny sentence. Like, you don't have to any text analysis.
No, she just says the same thing again and again and again.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, that's it.
And it often rhymes. Yeah, Replay's a fun one.
Okay, I'll investigate for sure.
Yeah.
But the book recommendation I was going to make has a funny context for us as well. But it's a book called I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. And it's a psychological horror book.
Oh my God.
And it's really, really good. It's really, really scary. But and Charlie Kaufman's going to make it into a film. And it's coming out in September. And I'm really, really excited for. But I sent Adam a text saying...
Embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing.
Sorry.
Everyone I've told this story to has been like, Adam is lovely, you're a psycho. Like, I just messaged Adam saying, breakup horror, I'm thinking of ending things. And then full stop, space, the number 1, the number 2, space, watch. 1, 2, watch, space, 2 exclamation marks. Adam reacted completely appropriately, but I didn't understand what was going on because I thought I just thought I'd recommended something to Adam. So Adam phoned me and was like, I'm so sorry I didn't get your message. Do you want to go for a walk? Like, are you all right? Do you want to go for a walk? I'm really, really sorry I slept on it. I didn't get it. Like, but I'm around now if you want to. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I just ended up being like, what? And saying like, a message. And then you're like, yeah, what you said about like breakup horror and how you're thinking of ending things and like, I just thought you might want to talk and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh.
Oh. It was very silly.
And that's why it's important to use italics and inverted commas when you're talking about titles.
I enjoyed that.
I still recommend.
Once it was all over, I enjoyed that. Wow. Yeah.
I spoke to so many people about that and they were like, well, yeah. You were like, sorry, total overreaction on my part. And everyone was like, no, you got a message saying, I'm thinking of it. But in any case, I'm fine. Harlan's still in the picture. Harlan's roasting a chicken as we speak. But moving on, that's kind of us. You can send us your questions at breakinguppodcast@gmail.com or via Instagram, where our handle is breakinguppodcast. And to continue to support Black creatives, Black organisations, and other BIPOC. Is that how you say it? Apparently there's pushback against that. BIPOC.
Okay. I suppose it's kind of like BAME. Yeah, I was thinking about it this week. The kind of like weird EDI doublespeak when an employer can get called out and be like, listen, you don't have any Black employees. And it's like, well, you're right, we don't have any Black employees, but we have 15 Black, Asian, and minority ethnicity employees. And you're just like, what? So it's like, we do and we don't. And it just gets people tied nuts.
Yeah.
I hadn't really figured that out before this week. I was like, oh yeah, that's confusing and, just conducive to
and tokenistic. Yeah. But in any case, if you want to support people who aren't white, and you can listen to the Creative Me podcast.
That's my least favourite iteration about non-white is like, it's just like, well, you're not white, are you? It's like, what? Yeah, we'll figure it out. Thank you very much for taking charge of these parts because, I've really just been like, on you go. I'll just judge you from over here.
Throw me to the wolves every time. But if you wanted to support some people who deserve support, you can support the Creative Me podcast by Ika Headlam, the Rumpus Room, which is a great organisation that supports like young people in Scotland and Glasgow specifically. You can support Calabash Kitchen, 07 Catering, and the Black Curriculum, which still needs a lot of support, still needs a lot of donation, and is really important. In Scotland, we became the first country to have LGBTQI+ history on the curriculum, so that's really exciting. I just think there's a lot of headway still to be made with teaching and, inclusion.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. It'll be nice to see that activated in a way, hopefully.
Yeah, so. I think we just need to forget about teaching the world wars anymore.
They've been, mate. They've been.
There's so many films, there's documentaries, there's old folks that want to talk about it. It's in the news. We've got all these monuments we're in the process of cleaning up, and just let's just talk about empire, colonialism.
Yeah. Do you know what?
And maybe the suffragettes. I've always enjoyed the suffragettes.
I was going to say at our school, there was a petition that went round to, specifically directed to the rector, the headmaster, to address the lack of education around race in the curriculum. And if you're happy to create one of them and send it to your headmaster and try and get people in your school to sign it, like ours ended up with over 400 signatories and all that kind of thing. Like, it is a big deal. We're like all in talks with those people and the people that can actually like affect change there, and it is like an ongoing discussion, which is really nice. And that might not happen if you contact your school, but it's good to be able to show that that's not happening if you contact your school, and then you can take it to the council. So all important stuff to do. And important to have it in like a paper trail as well. Don't be making calls, be doing emails. But as a rule going forward in your life, collect
the best defense is your paper. Really take that one out of context.
But I guess that's kind of what we said for literally every question as well, which is just like get evidence.
We're quite detail oriented, I think, as a duo. Like, I think whenever we make any kind of argument in any context where I was like, okay, we need like grounds for this.
The critical thinking hangover for both of us.
I think it makes it probably annoying to be our friend. Like,
that's why I think we're definitely
like, it mixes well, but sometimes it's just like, oh god, the other week I was just like asking for a radio show to be switched off, and I gave the 3 cogent reasons why it was bad, and I think sometimes it can just feel quite exhausting, you know?
I've had that.
It's just,
I've had that was unnecessary criticism, basically, but I just think that I should make my case.
I always feel that. It's like I'm dealing you in.
But also, like, criticism's not always nasty, guys. You know? That's really us showing our colours now. But thanks for listening to the podcast. Email us any questions. We like you all very much. And we'd like you to keep listening to us, even though we're annoying to everyone but ourselves.
2,000 downloads! Not done streaming.
2,000 downloads. If everyone could keep downloading, that would be great, because then if we get 10,000 downloads, we get included on Acast, and Acast can give us that sweet, sweet cash. So that's our goal. If you've got loads of devices, download us on all of them.
Today
we might get paid. Sorry. What did you say?
It's funny, today I was thinking about like if other podcast ideas we could do, and I thought we could do one on friendship, and I just realised that sounds like the most bland podcast ever.
Mate,
I feel like it's a dominant theme in our podcast, but it's not what our podcast is about. You've got to have something like salacious, breaking up.
Yeah, if we want to talk about love, heartbreak, sex, the whole thing, vibrators. But look out for the sex toy collection, and find us wherever you want to find us, and do all the downloading. Thanks very much for listening. You're a bunch of stars.
We love you.
Bye.